Hello, everybody. It is so awesome to be alive right about now because Matt KAHN is here. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Straight Talk for the Soul series. I'm Carrie Murphy, your host and the creator and founder of this global broadcast and community. I have been feeling so excited about today. Someone we all know and love is here. Matt KAHN is here to join me as my co-creative partner, and I could not be happier. Also, we're gliding into day 2 of season 11 of this show, and we had an amazing launch party yesterday, so highly encourage you to listen into that. And you can listen to all of your replays, including today's show, at straighttalkforthesoul.com, as well as on iTunes and YouTube. Just enter in Straight Talk for the Soul to find us. And, of course, I want to extend a bright and beautiful good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you tuning in from all corners of the globe. As usual, welcome to our sacred circle and our listening family. I love walking this journey with all of you, hand in hand and heart to heart, and I'm honored to create and hold this pure space for you to come every day and feel held and loved in the arms of the divine. There are tremendous waves of loving support available to you here today and every day, and I'm really grateful that you decided to spend your time with us today. Because love is truly the answer, my friends. While there are many pathways to healing and expansion and transformation, only one path takes you all the way into the bliss of radiant wellness, energetic resolve, and emotional freedom. This path is the journey of heart-centered consciousness, where every frustration, setback, and limitation leads us to discovering love as the answer to every question or concern. And while so many spiritual beings acknowledge love as the most powerful force in existence, we're often left without a roadmap in knowing how to access love in all of its immaculate glory and transcendent perfection. And today I invite you to open your hearts and join me as I connect and converse with spiritual teacher, empathic healer, best-selling author, and YouTube sensation, Matt KAHN, and we're going to welcome love as the ultimate transformer. Over the last 13 years, Matt has helped countless spiritual beings revolutionize all aspects of their lives by offering teachings and processes and practices that are always rooted in empathic grace. I love that phrase, empathic grace. Through Matt's practical wisdom, his humor, of course, and his transmission of healing energy, you won't just know the truth, but you're going to have a direct experience of that truth expanding within you. So if you're ready to align with the highest vibration in the universe and transform all aspects of your reality in the most peaceful, joyful, and compassionate way, you're not going to want to miss a moment of today's show. As Matt often says, in a world of endless questions, love is the only answer. And so get ready to feel the love, everybody, a true transmission of love today. Please join me in opening your hearts and extending waves and waves of love and light and joy and appreciation to Matt as I welcome him to the show. Matt, I'm so excited you're here. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to always be here with you. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I am too. You know, we were talking earlier, I never know what we're going to talk about, but it always ends up being amazing. And you bring through just transformational information, Matt. And you know what I was thinking? I did think this is one thing I want to share that I thought of before the show, Matt. Your complete and pure connection to the divine, when it's blended with your depth of understanding and communicating this transformational information, combined with your humor, that's what creates this opening of the heart. So anyone who listens, that's what opens them to receive the transmission. So that's what I wanted to share with you, because it's that combination that makes you so unique and special. And I just wanted to acknowledge that about you, and I've loved you for years, and it's just amazing to see this expansion, of love because of you on this planet.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I mean, I'm humbled to receive that, and what's funny is I love humor. It's a powerful tool when used, in certain amounts. I never try to be funny when I'm on stage, and just like when I'm on stage, I never often have a plan of what I'm going to teach, but the universe uses me as a vessel, And what I say is just intuitively guided to help those who are hearing and receiving it. And whether, as my words come out with the most loving frequency, and then often with these unexpected doses of humor, I think it's done for two reasons. One is the humor helps us integrate the energies we're receiving, and the humor helps remind us that the divine does not judge the human parts less than the divine parts. And I think on this journey, sometimes we get a little bit too gung-ho on the inner work, that we tend to judge our human aspects less than spirit. And I think through humor and art and music, the divine is really telling us that they may be different aspects, the human and the divine, but they are in fact one and the same and equal no matter how they are experienced or expressed. So I think through the humor is really just to help us laugh our way into a deeper space of love, healing, acceptance, and humility.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then we don't take our perceived problems or weaknesses or whatever so seriously. It allows us to lighten up on this journey. But what's interesting, Matt, is you also bring in, when I listen to you or anyone listens to you, it's pretty profound stuff. I sit back and I'm like, wow, I need to listen to Matt more often.
Thank you.
Really, it's pretty profound. And then I love when you just laugh at yourself because you crack yourself up because you never know what you're going to say, and then you're like, that was pretty good.
It's a really funny thing. It's a really funny thing where, like, on the inside, I'm having a reaction inside of me when I say something of a deep, profound nature, that I would actually have the same reaction if I was sitting in an audience listening to someone else on stage, where I just did a retreat in Portland, and so much of it was just so brand new in the moment, and on the inside I would stop and go, oh, that was amazing. But it's so funny how I'm having my own personal experience of what's flowing through me.
Right.
It's not just because it's flowing through me do I think it's, oh my God, but I'm a fan. I'm a fan of spirituality. I'm dedicated to doing the work, and I find myself like a pioneer of consciousness where there's no end to how high of a vibration we can explore. And even when I teach love and bring through transcendent teachings, for me the interest is, and where's the next level and how high can we bring this? And it's really quite exciting. And so, I think for me, just the way in which I deal with what flows through me is that I get to enjoy it as well. And I get off stage and I go home or go back to my hotel, and I just get to kind of be in awe of how I was chosen and as to be the space for which this wisdom flows through. And it's always a deep, humbling honor.
Well, and I know that you have clearly cultivated a deep trust with the divine because you just go up there and let it flow through you. Anytime you're on stage or doing a show like this, or you don't know what you're going to say, and you just get up there with your microphone and let it flow. Right. That requires so much trust. But I think, and I feel that you've been rewarded for that so much, that there you can't go wrong with that trust in the divine and that. And one thing, there was a phrase that you've used, and I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was the new paradigm of spirituality, and I do feel that that's something that you're bringing forth. And what I found that really stood out to me, and something that you shared more recently, was the old paradigm was about all of us blaming ourselves for our experiences, like, oh, we should be so good at this, spiritual stuff. Like, what's wrong with me that something, quote, bad happened? Like, we're sucky at manifesting, and we just beat ourselves up. And what you try to bring through, and you do it very well, is this new paradigm is really honoring ourselves and not blaming ourselves. And I think that's pretty huge. That's a huge concept.
Thank you. I think in the old paradigm, and when I say old paradigm, I don't cast judgment on any older teachings. It's just more of, our spiritual textbooks need to be updated, and there are teachings that have outgrown their usefulness for most people, and we're living in a day and age where if the teachings aren't heart-centered, they're really not very practical, and they're not really quite helpful. You know, in the old paradigm, teachings could be interesting because you might not have heard it before, but just because it's interesting doesn't make it true. Like, oh, wow, my vibration. In the old paradigm, people would believe, oh, my vibration is why I'm attracting the things I'm attracting. And if you've never heard that, you immediately open up to its possibility because you're so ready, willing, and able to figure out, you know, what can I change to change what's coming my way. And in reality, our energy isn't what attracts what we attract. And all the reasons of the old paradigm, I call it blaming the experiencer. You know, and a lot of people will kind of get in this real self-defeated phrase of, oh, I guess I created it. And truth be told, if you don't personally remember being in heaven creating your life, then you didn't. I like to say, instead of thinking of you created this, because if you don't remember creating it, it's hard to say that in you know, as an authentic statement. It's kind of just like this very self-defeating, like, well, I guess I made a mess of my life. In reality, you know,
maybe I'll do better next time, or not. Yeah, maybe I'll.
I took the manifestation course. Yeah, I took the manifestation course. Really messed that one up. I made a vision board and didn't look at the pictures on the opposite side of the vision board, and you know, all these funny things. When in reality, it's not that you created your reality, especially as the ego who you take yourself to be. It's that you were chosen for this lifetime to go through an evolutionary process where every single thing that happens was supposed to happen exactly the way it happens, to bring you through an evolutionary process where you go from where you were when you were born in consciousness to where you're going to be throughout your journey. So if we shift from, I guess I created this, to I was chosen for this mission, then there's a deeper purpose for everything. And in life, things don't have to feel good or be a part of our desires in order to be necessary for the evolution of our soul. And that's really what surrender is all about. We say, you know what? Some things aren't going to be very popular with me, but in the end, I'm going to see how necessary it was. And I may get what I want. I may not get what I want, but I will always feel better than I've ever imagined. And that's the promise the universe makes to all of us.
Absolutely. Well, and it takes all of the self-judgment and criticism out of the picture, which can really just, you know, take our joy away. And so I love that. And, you know, I was going to ask you what your take on the whole law of attraction thing is, but what I'm hearing you say is, you know, I guess that is part of the old paradigm of spirituality, you know, where, I created that, you know, I must be a really, really bad manifestor, or I'm just not doing this right. But those teachings were around for a while. What do you think of them now, Matt?
Well, I think that they were designed to open up people's perspective to the fact that we are co-creators. But I think that the misunderstanding is that people were under the impression that they could create life at will to be what they wanted, whenever they wanted, however they wanted. You know, it's kind of like the Burger King of spirituality, your way, right away, you know, just like, and you can tell people get really hopped up on that type of information. You know, they get really hopped up on, oh my God, I got to keep my vibration high because if it drops for 2 minutes, I'm going to attract some atrocity. And it really becomes like this really hyper-vigilant energy. And what I will say is there is a law of attraction. And there's so much I could say about the law of attraction, because it's not as if there isn't a law of attraction. But I will say, and it might sound really radical to a lot of people, creating what you want is besides the point when you understand the gravity of the law of attraction. That there's a certain thing people right now are experiencing. I'm going to give a phrase to it. I call it manifestation burnout. And manifestation burnout is the imbalances and the fatigue and the exhaustion and the resentment we feel by focusing so much on what we want for ourselves. And when those things don't really happen, we get, you know, we get upset with the universe. We are distrusting. And I think one of the biggest things that's missing in the conversation with the law of attraction, the biggest thing that's missing, is that rather than just use your manifestation abilities to focus on what you want, because the belief is I have to make my life look differently so that it can feel differently, which isn't actually true. Mm-hmm. But what if we focused our manifestation skills on, what if I use my ability as a manifester to intend and help co-create miracles and blessings for others in my life? What if we took manifestation and used it as an act of generosity and giving and selflessness for others? And what if, as we go down that rabbit hole, we find that as someone who is co-creating with divinity, to intend blessings and fulfillment for others and not just for ourselves is what it really means to be the divine, because the divine is not just trying to co-create for the divine. The divine is always answering prayers and granting wishes for all beings. So when we start to kind of use our manifestation skills as an act of selfless generosity, we actually find that we can feel more of what we want, but we don't need our life to look different in order for it to feel different. And that's a huge breakthrough.
That is huge. That's, an act of selfless generosity. When we shift manifestation to not being about what we're creating for us, which is more ego. And,
right.
I love that, because then we're never let down, because it's like, we're doing things with an open heart. And, one thing you've said before that really stuck with me, one of many, but when you talk about how the ego kind of keeps our heart closed, and I like kind of waiting for the perfect moment, like, that person or that circumstance is deserving of my love, instead of, just always being loving. Like, what can I bless? What can I do? How can I give? How can I love in this moment? I mean, that's such a profound teaching, Matt, because oftentimes people really do close their hearts because they're like, oh, nope, that person just, isn't quite worthy of my blessings, or whatever. And what you're saying is if instead we can just be selfless with our love, with our generosity, instead of waiting for the right time, the right person, or whatever the ego wants, we can really be liberated. And
absolutely. When we're open, what keeps us open is giving. So people are trying to spiritually stay open or be open, but they're not necessarily knowing how to give as often as they could. And so then that makes the spiritual journey really hard. How do you keep your heart open when the very function that keeps it open naturally is giving? And just to kind of jump into something I channeled during the retreat I just offered in Portland, that's like, it takes this kind of a concept to a very high level. When we are open, we are giving. As long as we are giving, we are open. So none of us on this call have to worry about trying to open our heart or keep our heart open as long as we're giving. You don't have to necessarily give with your money, but you give with your time, even if that time is just taking a moment and blessing someone with everything they want to receive. And as a way of seeing the trajectory of possibility, because as we open to this, we're entering higher and higher realms of light and heavenly perfection, which is known as Christ consciousness. The world is ascending in unity consciousness, but what I'm speaking of is actually the higher levels beyond that of Christ consciousness. And just to have a taste of Christ consciousness, because someone on the call might think, well, what's it like to taste that light of Christ consciousness? What if any of us on the call could sit with ourselves, conjure up someone who recently upset you or someone who hurt you the most in your life? And despite what they did to you, what would happen if you sat there and as a way of freeing yourself of your emotional pain, conflict, or hurt, if you just blessed and intended that that person who didn't act appropriately, who wasn't on their best behavior, who wronged you, who hurt you, who abandoned you, who abused you, should be blessed with all the fulfillment their heart desires, simply from the realization that if people who hurt us are blessed with their fulfillment of their desires, They'll be so happy that no one else has to be hurt, and we are helping to break the cycle of abuse, pain, and hardship. That's the invitation.
That is a grand invitation, and it's like progressive forgiveness, on spiritual steroids. It's like that. It's because it's huge. That is, oh gosh. When we can do that, and I forget how you've described this, but I'm going to try to remember how when we can look at a situation where we feel that we have been wronged, and we're usually right in terms of it wasn't fair, it wasn't right what they did or what happened, but if we can look at it from the perspective of it's giving us the opportunity to show them light, to show them love, to show them this Christ consciousness, which in turn heals everybody. And then, like you just said, then they don't run around and hopefully do the same thing again, because when we share love, it's going to hopefully affect them or impact them. And then, like you said, that cycle of abuse will hopefully stop. And that takes a lot of practice, that
yes.
open-hearted, generous, and it's so not just forgiveness. Forgiveness not seems so like, I don't know, like what you're talking about is bigger, it's grander, it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It really is, but it's, I love that you bring this through because it just warms our hearts. You know what I mean? Like no matter all the bad things that go on in this world, you have a way of reminding us of just kind of settling down and it's all okay. What would you call this? Like this progressive kind of forgiveness that you're talking about, this blessing everyone. I mean, what is it? Is it just Christ consciousness in action?
It is Christ consciousness. I call it embodied transcendence, because transcendence for most people is thought of as I get beyond the things I don't like. Mm-hmm. And transcendence is actually going beyond the mentality of the world. Like, could you imagine, and people who are listening to this, even just listening to me talk like this is opening up that door, right? So, like, could you imagine sitting there just as a practice, just to see what happens, right? As crazy as what I'm about to say might sound to some people, could you imagine saying, may all those people that have hurt and wronged me be blessed with all of the things I want, and please, God, give it to them first, so I could sit here and applaud their happiness and knowing that no one else has to be harmed the way I was. If you can imagine that level of transcendent intentionality, what you do is you transcend the logic barrier of the collective unconsciousness, where most of the world thinks someone hurt me, they should be hurt, and then we're going to be good. But in reality, someone who has forgotten their light needs to be reminded of their light. We remind others of the light through acts of generosity and heart-centered grace. When someone who's not of the light needs to be reminded of the light, they often remind those that are closer to the light by acting out things that are not of the light. That's why we as heart-centered beings are victims of hardship, atrocities, abuses, neglect, and things that are rather difficult to face. When we're trying to heal these wounds, we're trying to process our feelings, but at a certain point we realize I keep repeating and orbiting this pain. And the pain is actually, this is what's fascinating, the pain is not actually from the harm done to you. The pain is from all the inner work we do has not moved us towards greater giving. We're just shut down trying to figure things out. So inevitably, what takes us out of healing purgatory and puts us in the transcendent light of heavenly perfection is when we can say, someone wronged me, and the only remedy to healing the wounds of being wronged is to even just vibrationally do something even more righteous, more right, more holy for the one who begs to know the divinity within them.
Yes. I concur, Matt. Yes, absolutely. And gosh, it's being, and we spoke this phrase yesterday, it's being an empowered empath, because, so many of us, like you and me, and probably almost everybody who's on this show today is an empath. But when we become these empowered empaths who just bless and love no matter what, it's not weakness. And
No.
It's the greatest strength that we can embody as an empath, right?
I would agree. I would totally agree. I think that because of the laws of unity consciousness, what we bless for others brings to us more blessings to be received. So when we are blessing others, we are showing them care. And the more care we show others, the more of the wounds from not being cared for get healed in ourselves. And what's interesting is that the more you withhold blessings from others around you, and especially those that have hurt you the most, you live in your ego structure, which, I don't think ego is a negative thing, but when you're in an ego structure, you're always living in a very deep level of self-concern. And to the degree that you spend time being concerned for yourself, concerned for the world and humanity, and of course, because we have so many people in a state of self-concern, we actually have collectively manifested a world that just gives us the evidence to be concerned about. But the more we care for ourselves, we build up the strength to care for others. The more we care for others, the more we feel cared for by the divine, no matter the state of the world. And as more and more people shift out of concern and into care, the world that we're trying to figure out how to save will actually continue its rebirth and become the heaven on earth it's already destined to be.
Absolutely. And, when we're talking about the ego, and you're actually offering a package, and we'll mention it later, but it's all about the ego. You did a whole 9-hour talk on this. But one of the most powerful things that you share about the ego, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, Matt, but about how the ego needs to qualify people, before they will offer love or extend blessings, and shifting into this other state, this transcendent state where nobody needs to qualify to receive our love. It's the greatest feeling ever, too. And you said something else that has really struck me as powerful, Matt, where, if we walk around and, just from that state of just an open heart and being loving, as though everyone we encounter, even though they may not be our soulmate, if we can look at them as though that's someone else's soulmate, or that's someone else's daughter or son or something. What a beautiful way to look at it or perceive it, to keep us in our heart.
Absolutely, and I think that when we notice someone else as someone else's soulmate, mother, sister, brother, relative, even to know, wow, this person that's annoying me is actually someone else's hero, we take a break from our own self-concern. We take a break from our own self-absorption. We take a break from the vibration of fear, and we come into a state of humility and compassion, where we actually realize that despite how your ego has labeled the characters in your life, that's my enemy, that's my annoyance, that's the person that triggers me, that's the person that I'm waiting to be loved by, and the more they don't give me what I want, the more resentful I become. When we can wake up out of our, how we scripted characters in our life to be instead, and again, it doesn't mean that every person has to be your best friend, and you don't have to be in a soulmate relationship with every person that comes your way, but every person can be respected for all the benefit that they bring to other people's lives. And when we can just respect other people's divinity, we find the remarkable attribute or the capacity to tolerate their egoic patterns greater. And then from that place, because we have a desire to respect, because we have a desire to think of people as being bigger than the roles they play in our lives, we find ourselves being less triggered by other people because we don't have to have emotions triggered in our bodies to be healed, to make room for compassion when we just allow compassion to lead the way. So for everyone on the call that wants to not, to live in a world where you don't have to be emotionally triggered and don't have to feel so up and down and tossed all around in the world, the way we do that is we get triggered to make space for compassion. So if we lead with compassion out the gate for ourselves and for other people, then there's nothing for other people to trigger. And it's just about waking up each day and say, how much more can I love myself, and how much more can I bless people around me, and how much more can I be nourished and fulfilled by the beauty and contributions and uniqueness that everyone around me brings to the planet, and less absorbed in the concern for what I hope to create, what I'm waiting for life to give me, and of course waking up out of the delusion that life has to become different or look different before it can feel different. The truth is, life will feel different when we act differently, and this is just the roadmap into unity consciousness and even beyond into the illuminated perfection of Christhood. And it's simply a matter of someone hurt me to beg for a remembrance of the light. I bless them with the fulfillment of light so that they can receive that homecoming. And in that homecoming, all of their pain gets healed. And when all of their pain gets healed, they'll have nothing to project onto others, and less abuse will permeate the planet. And we are fulfilling more of our purposes as archangels and spirit guides in training.
Yes. I want to clap for you. Like, yes.
Yay.
Matt did it again. It's and when we practice that blessing, Matt, like you were talking about, when we see people, it's a practice. You said something about how a lot of times people, they wait, for their perfect soulmate or that person to love them or whatever, but they're walking around with a closed heart all the time, and so they don't even know what to do when that person shows up. And so when we
100%.
practice blessing and extending love and respect all the time, it becomes so familiar to us that when that beautiful being shows up, it's like you're already open and ready. And I can't help but wonder if that's what happened to you, when you got married, and you know what I mean? Like how, I'm just like, cause you were just always in this state of just open love. And so when it showed up, you're like, yes, of course, and there it is. You know what I mean? It's beautiful.
Well, thank you. Well, when I got married, I was so blessed to meet my beloved wife, and when we met, it was a connection that was felt that was unlike anything I'd ever known. And I think I was in a stage in my life where, I had known love. I certainly had known surrender, but I had deepened all of that to such a degree where I was worthy of being chosen. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying before, where there's so many of us that are kind of holding back everything, waiting for the perfect person to give it to. Soulmates are two lights that find each other. And so if you have your heart closed because you're withholding and waiting for that special person, then the person's heart is open. That light is looking for you but can't find you amidst the darkness because your heart isn't open either. So two lights find each other when both hearts are allowed to be open. And it certainly doesn't mean you treat everyone like your soulmate, but you just allow yourself to be the best self that you keep telling yourself you're going to be when the perfect person shows up. And you just appropriately become that in everyone else's presence when you're with a clerk at the store, wish them a beautiful day, so great to see you. And you just allow the generosity of giving and intending, because you don't have to necessarily know how to bring someone's dreams to life. You just intend for whatever they want to go to them. And it's just constantly being a cheerleader for everyone's fulfillment. And because of the laws of unity consciousness, allow us all to be one with the light in all beings. When you are constantly championing everyone's fulfillment, you will only know fulfillment in the moments that come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder how, being in a relationship, like, do you believe in twin flames and that whole notion, Matt?
Well, I did a video where I kind of rearranged the definitions of twin flames where, I took what most people know as the conventional meaning of twin flame and soulmate, and I kind of rearranged it. I thought, some people know twin flame to be this like star-crossed love affair where we come together and we are one with each other, and soulmate was just people you work your stuff out with. And I kind of rearranged it and said, let's call twin flame the people that ignite the fire of adversity inside of you, that that prepare you for your long-lost love, and let's call that long-lost love soulmate. And I just changed the definitions. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people were profoundly healed. A few people in the twin flame community, which I never knew there was a community, were very happy with me. But and so it was interesting. So I believe, and when I say I believe, it's just I'm just articulating what I've experienced. There are people that come in your life who are there just to kind of bring up what needs to be healed and make space for greater generosity, fulfillment, love, and wholeness. And there are some people who are just there to celebrate the wholeness from the space you've created, from all the, chaos that you've gone through. So I believe that there are very unique purposes to every relationship, absolutely. And I believe there is not just one soulmate for us, but sometimes we are people who have soulmates for different stages of our lives. And so I believe that the universe is a very romantic cosmic presence, but at the same time, I think a lot of our romance as a society comes down to, I need someone to make me a promise, or I need to know that they're always going to be there, because it's our inability to deal with the fact that in the sweetness of being one with our beloved, we are meeting in a dimension where everything always changes. And we have to really kind of accept, you will be in a body, you will meet love, you will love and you will be loved, and you will do it in an environment that is always changing. And there may come a day and a moment where the thing you don't want to change is going to change. And it's only destined by cosmic law to change you for the better. And it's okay that in the beginning you can't see how losing a beloved could ever be better. But inevitably life has such an incredible plan for all of us that we have to be willing to say, I may gain, I may lose, but I'm never going to stop loving. And when we do that, we find the will to live, we find the joy of existence, and we find our true life purpose, which is to love without limitations. And that's what we're all discovering on the spiritual path.
Mm-hmm. And I like that you brought up that everything's always changing. And I think there's
always.
Such liberation in relationships of all kinds when that's remembered. Yeah, how has that, I think it's been, 2 or 3 years. How has that changed your work, Matt? Has it opened you up? Has it made a difference in the way that you're working or what comes through having this kind of love in your life?
I would say so. I would say I met her at the moment where I was at the stage of my awakening of, I've been awakened for many years, and I was in a very transcendent state, which I still am. And I was going through a journey of being moved back into my body to complete the circle of awakening. Because there's awakening out of the identity, there's floating into the ethers, and there's coming back to your body, your personality, and your form. So about the time that I was moving back into my body, my beloved came into my life, and that became a great force that pulled me back into my body. And since we've been together, I've never been more embodied. I've never been more integrated. I've never been more grounded, because I transmit such a expanded energy. Mm-hmm. And so now for me to be able to be as grounded and integrated as I am expanded has taken the work that I do with people as a healer in my group healing events. And it's actually taken my effectiveness and the miraculousness of what I do with people, it's cranked it up 1,000,000 degrees. So it's made me even more of a highly effective healer and light worker than I've ever been before. It's made me 1,000% more happier in my body and happier in life. It's made me more grounded, more relaxed, and more in tune with It's actually made me more in tune with enjoying my human experience equal to my desire to always explore my spiritual existence. So I could say that, being in this relationship has done such great things for me. And I was just really ready for it. I was ready to come fully back to the body and to bring all of my spirit back into this realm. And, I've never had more fun in my life than I'm having now. And it's just truly a joy to be alive.
That's incredible to hear. And I can hear it. And, I think that it is beautiful to have that balance and to have that, to really enjoy the human experience while you're also, so expanded and bringing all of this transcendent energy in. And so what a blessing for you. And it's clearly supported just, your work continues to expand, Matt, and more people are reached, your books, your events, all of these things that are going on. And, I can't help but notice that, they all coincide. I mean, it's all going on at the same time. Just love is expanding in all parts of your life. But I think that's incredible. So, I'm wondering, you just had this amazing retreat this past weekend, and was there anything, and I'm sure there were many things that stood out, but, what can you share with us today that kind of really impacted you this weekend?
I think, this weekend was where I brought through the, calling up the people that have hurt us the most and blessing them with all the joy their heart desires, and really kind of turning forgiveness into a dynamic form of embodied transcendence. When I saw how the audience was affected by that, because I brought it through spontaneously, so I didn't really know where I was going. And just seeing how to help people go from resentment and holding grudges, and again, against people who have wronged you. That's a really hard position to be in, where I am on stage walking people through a process saying, yes, you've been hurt. Yes, you've been harmed. Yes, you've been abused. And yes, it doesn't seem fair that this happened. You didn't ask for it. You were chosen for a mission from a higher level of consciousness than your human mind can understand. And if you want the way out of pain, let us take those that have projected their pain onto us, and we send that pain back to them as blessings for a greater reality by being bigger than the unconsciousness that dominated us, bigger than the unconsciousness that suppressed us, that took our power away. And watching people really reclaim their power by daring to be more loving than the worst thing that ever happened to them, and watching the elation and joy and freedom rush back into people's hearts immediately after they do such a thing, was literally just like watching hundreds of people in one room step across a stage and accept their spiritual diploma and graduate into the fifth dimension. It was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen, when the willingness of a soul to evolve and the guidance that guarantees that evolution come together. It's an extraordinary love affair, and I'm just so proud to be a vessel that brings through this type of information and opportunity.
I am too. And it's, like you said, it's transforming pain into a blessing, and realizing that person doesn't have to, quote, deserve it. You know what I mean? It's like the ego says, no, they don't deserve that. They hurt me too much. But wow, that is the key to our liberation, is turning that pain into a blessing. And you just mentioned the fifth dimension. And I mean, is that how, we use that phrasing, and we have for a while now. What does that mean to you now, or how has it evolved? Because we've talked about that for a while, but what does it mean to you now?
Well, fifth dimension is unity consciousness. So fifth dimension is, no matter the people that treat me as someone separate, I'm going to treat them as myself. And, we're going back to saying it's not fair, or they don't deserve that type of blessing. I think we can kind of use words to separate and distinguish what people usually think versus this meaning. People, when they say others who hurt me don't deserve blessings, what they're really saying is their misconduct has not earned the right for the goodness that I've been conditioned in this world to perceive as a reward. We've been conditioned as people to know when I'm good, there's a reward, and if there's a punishment, what have I done wrong? And that's been, for a lot of people, the ego's third dimensional moral compass. So when we find someone who does something to wrong us, we have no capacity to offer something of goodness, because in our minds we think someone wronged me and I'm giving them a reward when I should just wait for life to punish them. And I think that it's true. Misconduct doesn't earn the right for a reward, but people deserve goodness, and it's their misconduct that shows you deserving, not as an earn, but deserving as what they need. Like someone who's dehydrated deserves some water because they need it. And if that person is being mean and nasty, it's because their body is in a state of duress, needing hydration at a rapid rate. So I think if we kind of separate earning from deserving, we really find ourselves being able to give from a deeper space. And we can even say to ourselves, this person did not earn the reward of my goodness, but they deserve goodness because the pain they've projected onto me is showing me that they are in a state of crisis where they need to know the light of their soul, and all I need to do is be bigger than the abuse and neglect that came my way and just intend and visualize them thriving in their greatest reality. And the moment I envision that or intend it with my words, that's when the energy of forgiveness is activated, and that's when all cords are cut automatically, and that's when we are set free and when they are redirected onto a higher path.
Absolutely. And it's such a beautiful gift that we give to others, and we give the planet, because as you said before, then other people are spared the same kind of perhaps attack or pain, that is inflicted from an individual who is in crisis. And I think if we can look at those individuals as, like you just said, someone who is in crisis that needs love and needs light, and that's a beautiful thing. Matt, we have a lot of people who wrote in about this ego-related questions, and
yeah, I love it.
Yeah, one was asking you about the relationship between the ego and addictions.
Of course.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, so I'd love for you to respond to that.
So ego is, another way I defined ego at this retreat is ego is the psychological armor that we learn to wear at a young age to protect us from the feelings and from the changes that we don't have the maturity to process at such a young, formidable age. And the more we grow up wearing this ego armor, the more we think it's protecting us from negative feelings, but it's actually protecting us from the ability to feel altogether. And if you have something preventing you from feeling, you can't hear and understand what your intuition is trying to tell you through your feelings. So when people are going through an awakening process, it's the universe disarmoring the ego and taking this armor off, because as long as you wear armor on some subconscious level, you're going to manifest battle and conflict in your life, because anyone who wears armor is ready for a battle. And so we take off the armor to end the battle of human conflict. And as you're going through awakening and the armor is being dismantled through this process, oftentimes addiction is where the ego hides in this kind of like this hostage crisis, someone who the police have surrounded a building, and the criminal has been, and not to criminalize ego, but just in the example, and the person in question is being surrounded and they're hiding, and they're trying to negotiate them out of hiding. So the ego often hides in addiction, trying to prevent or avoid the awakening that is going to ultimately free the ego back to the light. But from the ego's perspective, the ego thinks awakening is trying to destroy and annihilate it. So the ego is hiding for its own survival. Eventually we'll come out of hiding and surrender and know that, oh my God, it's just the light of heavenly perfection coming to take me home. But before that happens, the ego is hiding, trying to avoid its own demise. And we as people give the ego a hiding spot through our various addictions and patterning.
Yeah, and that was Sissy from the Netherlands who wrote that in and said, and she wasn't asking from a victim mode, but more on how to leave the addiction behind. And for her, it was cigarettes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how, what would you suggest to someone like that who does have an addiction, whether it is cigarettes or eating or alcohol or a variety of things? What would you say to that?
Well, there's two things. Let's start with cigarettes. Cigarettes are interesting because when you are smoking a cigarette, if you were to imagine someone smoking a cigarette, if you were to take the cigarette out of their mouth and just watch them breathe, like people do when they smoke cigarettes, you'd be watching someone doing yogic or pranayama breathing. So it's the pranayama breathing that the body craves when someone takes a smoking break. It's the ingesting of toxins that people put into their lungs that celebrates the lack of self-worth. So when someone is smoking, if they have the ability to say, when I want a cigarette, it's because my mind is chemically addicted to these toxins. But what my body is asking for is not a cigarette, but a breathing break. And if we can breathe like people do when they smoke without having to ingest toxins and cigarettes and vaping and all that stuff, if you can just breathe, if she can just breathe how she does when she's smoking without using a cigarette, and of course there's going to be detoxification symptoms, but we have to weather that storm, then she's going to realize what I've always wanted was to breathe, but my low self-esteem caused me to inhale toxins because I wasn't able to perceive myself as the divine that I am. And if we kind of look bigger into addictions, people will talk about an addiction's denial and acceptance and all these different stages, particularly in the 12-step program. What I think is the most important thing about addiction is when someone realizes the choices they're making is harming themselves. Because the way someone who has an addiction is able to stay in denial is that they think that the very toxin or the very intoxicant or the very, artificial thing, alcohol, cigarettes, whatever it is, even someone who does plant medicine ceremonies way too often, they are doing it because they are focusing on some sort of benefit, whether I'm avoiding the emotions that don't make me feel good, or it gives me a rush of positivity I don't feel normally. People focus on a positive benefit, and so they sell themselves on this is working for me. But true addiction starts to be healed when you actually put aside what you think the benefit is and just admit to yourself with honesty, as much as I think this is really helping me, I'm actually harming myself every time I do this. And the more we acknowledge that we're harming ourselves, the more we wake up to realizing I have the right to bring harmony to my life, but I will no longer be like the pain and abuse of my past, and I will become one less person who harms me by making better choices. So that's, to me, the most important part.
Beautiful. Thank you for addressing that, and hopefully you heard that out there, and for everybody. And this is an interesting question from Coco. First of all, she said, Matt KAHN has opened my heart in so many ways. I absolutely adore the combination of lightheartedness and the depth of truth in his words. He is truly, truly tapped in. Yes, he is. Okay, so her question is, how is my physical body healing connected to my metaphysical healing?
I would say that the metaphysical healing is what happens on a soul level, and I think on a mental, emotional, and physical level, the changes of the body is kind of just processing and kind of reflecting the metaphysical journey of expansion. And I think that what's interesting is that both kind of support each other. So metaphysical healing can give us greater awareness as to taking better care of our bodies physically, emotionally, and mentally, and by really being able to love our minds, console our emotions, and take great care of our physical body. When we start to really take care of ourselves, we're now stepping into treating us like the divine does. And when we step into being the divine within ourselves, then the identity of the one on a metaphysical journey starts to disappear. So it's really interesting. A lot of us are on these healing journeys, and we're trying to get to the end of the journey, and we're maintaining the identity of, I am someone on a spiritual journey. And when you're someone on a spiritual journey, you are connected to the divine, but you're more like a child connecting to the divine like a parent. When you start to care for your body like the divine does, because the divine is nothing but love and care, the more you care for yourself energetically, mentally, emotionally, physically, you then step out of the identity of seeker and person on a path, and you actually become the divine within you. Once you do that, whatever is unresolved on your path disappears instantaneously. So instead of maintaining the identity of a seeker and someone who's trying to heal themselves, we step instantly into being the divine within ourselves, because as the divine, we are that which heals, not what needs to be healed. So there's a little bit of a little secret there that I think is going to become more talked about in the next coming years. And I am someone definitely who's going to be, spearheading that, to open that door and say, look, a lot of us have been healing for 25,000 lifetimes. And we're still trying, we're still telling ourselves, well, there's just 4 layers to go. I was joking at a retreat when people say it's like an onion. It's not like an onion, because when you peel an onion, there's a point where the onion is done peeled. How big is this damn onion? And how big is this damn cosmic onion? Come on. And so but there's a point where you actually go, okay, there's a part of me that doesn't care for myself at full capacity because I'm waiting for the universe to be the parent that comes and rescues me. I'm going to step into complete self-care for myself, and as long as I'm just caring for myself and taking great care of myself, I'm becoming the divine, not someone waiting to commune with the divine. And when I become the divine, I am that which heals, not that which waits to be healed, and that's a bombshell.
Yes, it is. That could be a whole. Well, I'm sure you'll end up doing like a whole video on something like that. But I mean, it's a big topic, and I do believe that
I'm going to write a book, by the way. I'm going to write a book on that. Yeah, I'll tell you right now. I already have the title. I'm going to call it Freedom from Healing.
Oh, I like that. Liberation.
Just like, why not?
Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. You said it. Yeah, we'll be waiting for it. Get busy, Matt. And that's, it's interesting because several people wrote in saying that, like, hi, Matt and Carrie, I've done so much healing, but I still feel stuck. I want to go to the next level of life. Please advise. And it's like what you're saying. How many layers of healing do we have to do to feel free and liberated? And
even a Tootsie Pop has a number that tells you how to get to the center of it, even a Tootsie Pop. There has to be an end to this. And the thing is that in this new revelation, and even when I talked earlier about blessing people who have harmed you, only the divine can do that. So if you can say to yourself, may all of my exes, may all of my enemies, may all of my family, despite how they acted, may everyone who ever harmed me be blessed with outrageous fortune. Only those words can be spoken by the divine. The ego cannot speak that, because the ego is always going to want conditions and understanding. Right. And so if I say that, will the universe cut me a big fat check? And it's hilariously obvious that only the divine in you can actually do that. So when you start blessing, to test this, because I test everything I teach before I teach it, to kind of just see the frequency. I once sat in my living room and went through history and thought of every despicable dictator and character I've ever known and blessed their souls with outrageous fortune, simply to rehabilitate their soul, to bring more light to the planet, so that every person and ancestor connected to their dictatorship can be healed and cleared and resolved. Only the divine can do that. And when you start living from this different space, Again, you become someone who heals. A healer is not just someone who makes other people's lives change. A healer is someone who heals, and the body of the healer is the first one that is healed when a healer is activated. So when we live as the divine, we become that which heals, not that which is waiting to be healed. And we do that through great self-care, incredible loving kindness to our hearts, blessings of outrageous fortune to everyone. And we always find that there's something energetic to give. And when there's always something to give, we can't even imagine how much there is to receive.
I love it. I bless you with outrageous fortune. And that's what better gift? I mean, that's just outrageous everything, outrageous abundance, prosperity, fortune, love, joy. Wow, that's really, really powerful. And I know I don't have a more powerful word to use, Matt, but you know what I mean? It is grandly powerful.
I love it.
I do want to talk about your offer, which is all about the ego. And I'm going to say this one last question from Miranda, someone else from the Netherlands. There are a lot of people from the Netherlands that are on the call today. Isn't that interesting? Okay. She said, I feel like this is a silly, childish question, but it's something I've struggled with all my life. So, Matt, when I'm in a relationship, I always doubt whether I should stay in it or leave. Is this the ego? Is it me afraid to commit? Or is it my intuition telling me it's not right?
Well, it could in fact be all of that, but usually here's the thing. I think what the truth is for Miranda is we can't think that question, we can't think the answer is making it one thing and not the other things. If I were to say that's your ego, which could be true because the ego is very afraid of commitment, and once it finds itself in commitment, then it wants to either change the person or, just discredit them and figure a way out to keep seeking. So, of course, there's that possibility. But there's also the possibility this might be not the right person for Miranda. We don't want her to, settle for something, that doesn't complement and match what she has to give. So what I would say is that my feeling with this person is they have the tendency of looking to the universe for answers, which is wonderful, but they always want it to be one thing. Like, let's make the answer one thing so I don't have to kind of, so it could always be one thing and I'll just make it that one thing across the board. But in every moment, there are so many factors involved. In one moment, it could be the ego. I would say if it's ego, it's usually, oh my God, nothing's wrong with the relationship. And when we sabotage, we always know on the inside that's because we're either feeling unworthy, or sometimes we don't know it's unworthiness and we're just afraid to lose, or we're so afraid that we're not going to measure up to their expectations. So if it's ego, you kind of know you're running away from something in some form or fashion. If it's just not feeling right, it's not a judgment. It's just your energetic field saying, I'm not sure this person is the one that brings out my best. And if they don't bring out my best, I may not bring out their best. So I would just ask Miranda to sit with it and say, what is it really? Am I running away because it feels too good and I'm afraid of being unworthy to them, or I'm afraid of letting it in and surrendering? Or is it just, I just don't know that this is the one? And I know that Miranda will have the ability to get the right answer because she already knows the right answer. She's just, confused on making the wrong decision and just, just a little mixed up. So if we sit with it, we go, okay, am I running away? And just feel into it. Does that feel right? Is this so amazing that I'm just trying to sabotage because what if I'm not good enough for them? And then if it's not, you sit with, maybe this just isn't, maybe I'm ready for a relationship, and maybe this just isn't it. Maybe I'm creating the right relationship with the wrong person, and just know that the truth is always simple, and you're not going to mentally get the right answer figuring it out. You have to feel it out. Just feel into your feelings and just go, what are my feelings trying to tell me? And if you just ask yourself the question, what are my feelings trying to tell me? Your feelings will tell you.
Absolutely. As an empowered empath,
yes.
honor your feelings. So this incredible offer, which those of you, if you happen to be new to the show, you can find it at straighttalkforthesoul.com /marketplace, and you will see Matt's picture. And the offer is called Overcoming the Ego. And you spoke at the Omega Institute for 9 hours and 30 minutes of teaching and Q&As, and that is what's included in this. 22 tracks, 9 hours, 30 minutes, lots of teachings. You do this so often, Matt. Do you recall this this particular time and some of the information that came through?
Well, I just want to say that, it's 9 hours and 13 minutes, but I didn't talk for 9 hours consecutively. We did take bathroom breaks, and but no, it was an amazing retreat. It was the first time I spoke at Omega, and I just remember being in that moment because it's the energy of the crowd that brings out my teachings. And I remember it was just, I was there using the vibration of love and transcendence to really help unravel the most overlooked and hard to find aspects of ego. So if a lot of us in this call are going, God, when is this healing journey going to end, or where am I going to have some relief, or I would love to stop feeling like my life is Groundhog Day. This transmission, this package is really helpful to get to the root of a lot of things and to really not, again, we're integrating the ego to set it free, but just to really make the surrender process as beautiful, as heartfelt, as compassionate, and easy as possible. So for any of us that feel stuck emotionally, unsure what to do with our lives, where are we going, feeling kind of clogged up with emotional density, or just not very as in tune spiritually or in the flow as we desire, and just want to start living a more passion-filled life, a life of inspiration, a life with greater fulfillment, and just start to really experience the light we're shining in tangible form. This download is an incredible opportunity just to sit down and listen to each track and let the energy do all the healing, let all the clearings and integrations take place. And each and every time you listen to it, it goes deeper and deeper and deeper and really allows you to take quantum leaps into a brand new miraculous reality. And I just, that's what I want for everyone on the call. And I'm just so excited for everyone to have this.
Well, and I want to highlight there really is this transmission of frequency that occurs when you're speaking. I mean, just whenever I do a show with you, I have to make sure that I don't just like zone out, and just kind of like stay alert, Carrie, and you got to ask some questions here, but because the vibration is so high, you could just, you can feel its transformative quality, or it's pretty powerful. So this is 9 hours and 30 minutes of that. So thank you, Matt, for allowing us to share this with our community, and I hope that a lot of people get to enjoy it. And I want to. So there are a couple of people who wrote in so all healing is really self-healing.
Yes.
Is what
100%. And just to add to what you just said about the package, if people zone out, what happens is the zoning out is not them doing something wrong. The zoning out is their spirit guide saying, wow, we need this frequency, and to get into the subconscious mind. So when you zone out, your subconscious mind opens up and drinks the energy and more. So when people are listening to this, you're going to remember parts of it. You're not going to remember other parts of it. But the point is not to use your ego to stand guard. The point is if you zone out, if you fall asleep, your subconscious mind is drinking it in. And the benefit of having this download is you can just re-listen and re-listen. And what people have found with my work for years, and especially with this package, is every time you listen to it, you're going to get something new. There is no end to the amount of nuggets and morsels you'll get from this. So it's such a mystical, unexplainable, miraculous process, and all we have to do is just trust it,
Absolutely. That's such a good point, because I can remember years ago, and I would listen to some of your videos, and I could listen to them 10 times, and it would be totally different each time. And sometimes I would fall asleep, you know what I mean? And I knew that it was what was necessary in that moment, and then, you know what I mean? So it's a powerful, miraculous thing. And regarding your freedom from healing. Quite a few people wrote in already, like, freedom from healing. My body just said, wow, that's so what I want. Thank you, Matt, doing a happy dance. So you already have supporters of your new book.
Well, and the fun thing is like I have another. I'm almost done with my third book with Hay House, which is called The Universe Always Has a Plan. But I think 2 books from now I'm going to do the Freedom from Healing. I knew I was going to do it a while ago. I had the title, but I just had to let the teachings drop in. So right. 2 books from now, we'll have that one. And
2 books from now.
2 books from now. And but in the meantime, we're just going to all accept the fact that healing at a certain point is optional. We've all been on these incredible healing journeys. We've done such a great job, but we don't have to define ourselves as, like the spiritual journey shouldn't be like, that relative who has that classic car in the garage and he works on the car day and night but never drives it, Like we're coming to a point where we're no longer needing to work on ourselves, because you only need to work on yourself to the point that you realize self-care and embodied transcendence. And when you start to give from your divine self, and when you start to adore yourself from your divine self, again, you become that which heals, not what needs to be healed. And it's just a brand new option that is coming to life on the spiritual path. And it's only because our vibration collectively and individually has come to such a point where we're ready for something like this. So the fact that we've done all the healing work we've done, I can congratulate everyone on this call and on the planet who has done spiritual work and say we've done such a good job digging into ourselves for so many years that we've unearthed this hidden doorway called freedom from healing, and now we're ready for something different. So if you're ready for freedom from healing and you want to kind of surrender the ego in the most enjoyable, fulfilling way and start really feeling a different way of being and entering a new dimension, this package that we're offering is a bold step in that direction.
Awesome. So healing is optional, but self-care and embodied transcendence is essential. Like, that's the key to this. That's incredible. So freedom from healing. Yes, and everybody, I hope that you will take advantage of this amazing offer from Matt. Matt, thank you for being here. Oh, my God. I love our time together. And, I'm going to have to go back and listen to this because I can't remember all the things that were shared, but I sure loved it. And you're incredible, and I just extend so much love to you for all the love that you are bringing into the world. You're amazing, and we all love you. There's so many people that wrote in that say they love you. Yeah, so feel that. Feel those waves of love. So, all right, Matt, any final words? Or I think we've said a lot, but anything you want to share before we say goodbye?
Yeah, just that, we've all been waiting for a new dawn, a new day, a new reality. When's ascension coming? When's the new energy? When's it going to be different? I'm not going to say it's going to happen. I'm going to say it's already underway. Everything we want is happening. Everything we've been waiting for is happening. We just have to take a different approach so that what is happening can be visible and tangible to our senses. But the heaven on earth we've been waiting to manifest is already rendering in our dimension. And this is where life becomes a renaissance of creativity and passion and inspiration. And may all of our hurt, our plight, our suffering, our confusion, our abandonment, our loneliness, may all of that swiftly come to an end so that this new spiritual renaissance can be recognized and received.
Beautiful. Doing the happy dance, Matt. That was incredible. So thank you, Matt, and to everybody who has joined us. Thank you for the tremendous gift of your light, your presence, your love, and your time today. If you've joined us by computer, we'd love to get your comments and feedback, and allow yourself the opportunity to listen again and just kind of bathe in these transcendent energies that were shared here today. And you can receive even more insights, layers, and frequencies each time you listen. So, and of course, please consider gifting yourself with the opportunity to expand on what you experienced today with Matt's amazing offer in our marketplace at straighttalkforthesoul.com, and we'll give you lots of information on that later in your replay email. And you're welcome to join us in our Facebook group. Just type in Straight Talk for the Soul, and on iTunes and YouTube. And that's it for today, everybody. I am sending waves and waves of love and light and gratitude directly from my heart to yours in this moment. May you feel it, receive it, offer it to those you encounter today or tonight, wherever you are in the world. And until next time, as always, please give yourself full permission to shine instead of shrink, express instead of suppress, and own that amazing, powerful glow of yours. I'll see you back here in this playground of light next time, everybody. Bye-bye.